One of my favorite people in the whole world, one of the not, I won't say new faces in personal growth, but certainly one of the major forces in personal growth. Simon Sinek had this great thought, which was you got to dream big. You got to start small. You start small, but you dream big, and then you create the project that you want. But the first thing is you got to start. And for a lot of you, there's places where you've held yourself back and you've been getting ready to get ready to get ready to get ready, or as they say in the South, fixing to get ready. But the point is, you're not really moving into action. And that's what we want to absolutely do here. And of course, I'm always talking about this thinking big. And it's not because it's about positive thinking, although it is. That beats negative thinking for sure. But it's not just about being positive. It's about really understanding the greatness of who you are. And I don't mean that in an ego, braggadocious, it's all about me. But there's a part of it which is you're the one who carries it out. You're the one who creates. You're the one who envisions and then makes it happen, right? Make it happen, watch it happen, wonder what happened. You're making it happen or you're not. And the only limits as we see it are right here. Actually, it goes between our heart and our heads, because this is where we hold ourselves back. Stories I've been told, hurts that I have, or, ideas that I've bought into. Sometimes other people's stories almost always came from someplace else in the world. So when we think about, all of this, it's really about, we got to stop thinking like realtors. First of all, it's a big start for this program is you got to stop thinking like a realtor, because realtors primarily, and I'm going to say this, listen, I've been the fan, I've been the hero, I've been the advocate for realtors for a lot of years. I'm going to say decades. And I'm going to tell you that still, knowing what I know, that, you don't want to copy realtors. You don't want to be just another realtor. Most of them are broke. They don't have, their mindset's broken. They're broke financially, mentality. They live in a scarcity place, looking for the next deal, chasing deals. They live in a place where, they're transactional. They're looking just as far as they can see the next commission. And that's where most realtors are. Let's not do that. Let's not copy that. We want to make sure that we're really building something bigger. So I want to talk about what you want. Like, what do you see? What do you want? And I'd love for you to take just a couple minutes and turn the program off just for a second. Give yourself maybe 3 or 4 minutes. Listen, we could do that for 20 minutes and it would be great. If you want to go and really do a goal setting, we're going to hit on goals and vision here several times. And in another program, we're going to get to it as well. But I want to just make sure that you're seeing this, because if you want to really get serious, it's not going to be 3 or 4 minutes, right? You're not going to plan a life in 3 or 4 minutes, but you can plan a life in some hours or a day, or a day to start, and then some ongoingness. And, one of my favorite things to do is to go someplace that inspires. In my case, when I lived in Southern California, it was the Ritz-Carlton in Laguna Niguel. And I would go there, sip champagne, have finger sandwiches, let them treat me royally while I sat and planned out and thought and designed and developed and created and all of that, because it was like I was in the environment of greatness. I was in the environment of bigness. And that's a great place to plan from. So what do you want? Take just 3 or 4 minutes and jot down some things that would be very, very important, really important. If I run those together, it sounds funny. And that would be very important for you this year, next year, and maybe over the next 5 years. Like, give yourself just a little bit of a horizon, okay? So shut off the program and jot some notes to yourself down. And of course, if you've got a journal, put them in there so you keep them. If you've got a remarkable like I do here, then you can put them in the remarkable, but somewhere, jot some notes down. Yeah, so if it helps you at all, just thinking this through, because a lot of times we don't know what it's like to ask anymore. We just don't know what it's like to ask for what we want. We're adults. And we're supposed to be self-sufficient. And I'm supposed to be able to feed my family and do the things that are necessary. I'm supposed to be able to pay my bills. Well, guess what, guys? A lot of it is because we don't know how to ask. Mark Victor Hansen wrote a book, 2 years ago, right at the beginning of the pandemic. It was called Ask. And if you don't know Mark, Mark has all the, he and Jack Canfield had all the chicken soup series. So chicken soup for everything, right? Chicken soup for the soul, chicken soup for the kids, chicken soup for the wife, chicken soup for the husband, chicken soup for everybody, chicken soup for the golfer even. So anyway, Mark and his wife, Crystal, they wrote the book Ask. And it's really about the fact that we don't ask. We don't ask intelligently. We just don't ask. And so I remember back, and I pulled this, I'm older than looking at the Sears Wish book back in 1971, but I found this artwork and I thought it was pretty fun to look at the Wish book. And if you're old enough, you'll remember it, Sears Wish book. And, you know, Toys R Us didn't exist. And Sears was where, you know, when we were coming towards Christmas and there was going to be this list and Santa Claus was going to bring me stuff. What did I do? I went to the Sears catalog and I circled stuff. Went, oh, I want that. Ooh, I got to have that. So I want you to get a little childlike in this next couple minutes again and think, what do I want? What do I really want? Not what am I settling for? Not what am I giving up on my real dreams in favor of survival? No, what do I really, really want? And take a few minutes and do it. Okay, here we go. Now you're back on, and I want to show you something because this is a little bit of what I was talking about. Here's where you are, and here's where you want to be someday. And the someday could be, you know, obviously we go 5 years and then someday. So it could be 7 years, 10 years, could be 15 or 20 years, could be 25. Depends on how old you are as to how far out you might be thinking. It's also dependent upon your the way that your mind works as to whether you can see close in easier or far off easier. Sometimes people have great vision for the future, can't figure out how to get there. And then of course, some people have great vision from the now, but can't tie that to the future. So wherever you are, here's where you are now. Here's where you want to be someday. And somewhere in there is this movement, right? So I want to take you through the process today, but I have 3 questions for you. And I want you to think these questions through this diagram, this drawing, because this is going to be very important. Number one, when you set goals for yourself, for your someday, that distant someday, whatever that is, 10 or 15 or 20 years, are you thinking about what's possible or what your beliefs tell you is possible? Meaning, are you really looking at the huge possibilities exist in the world, or are you thinking about the limited view that you see? Well, I wouldn't want to ask for that much, or I wouldn't want to go that far, or I wouldn't want to have to pay the tax on that much, or I wouldn't, you know, want to work that hard. So in other words, is it the limitation that is your bigness, or is it just the truth of bigness? And I'm going to put it in financial terms to say, you know, there are people like Bill Gates or Elon Musk and many others who redefine financial success. And yet we, you know, struggle to make $30,000, $40,000, $50,000 a year. Like we're in the same 24 hours. We're in the same world. We may be even living in the same country. And how is that possible? Well, because they don't have a limited view. They have an enormous view of what's possible. They have an enormous view for touching the world. So that's the first question. Second question is, why do you want what you want? And is it because that's what you really want, or is it because that is what somebody else wants for you or wanted for you? Is it what you grew up thinking was success? Is it to impress others? I mean, I will tell you this, I got to be fairly darn successful, multiple seven-figure income per year. And understand this, when I really got to that place and I started to see these patterns inside of sabotage and things that were not great, things we're going to talk about today. When I looked at it, I started to realize that I wanted success so that my dad would notice. So my dad would say, "Great job, son," which, by the way, never happened. So I wasn't building for me. I was building for what other people would think of me. And most importantly, in my life, would dad just acknowledge me? And so why do I want what I want? Is it for somebody else? Is it for my family? Is it for my own self-worth, achievement? In other words, I'm not worth anything unless I do this. Or is it because I deserve abundance and see a great vision for what could happen in this lifetime? So again, where are you coming from? Same result, different feeling inside. Third thing I want you to ask yourself is, are your actions in alignment with your goals? Like, this is where I want to be someday. Let's go back. This is where I want to be someday. Am I doing today? Am I doing right now? Am I doing this week what is lining me up with that? Or am I looking at the someday and going, yes, but right now I'm going to do this? Because if this isn't taking you that direction, boy, that's a challenge. So I wanted to make sure that you get those questions and really think through, like, how do you come to conclusions? How do you make those decisions? And let's look at it, because I said that here's where you are, here's where you want to be someday. And each day you make a decision. So you go, wow, I got a great idea. You know what I'm going to do today? I'm going to do this fantastic idea, and I'm going to put that into the world. And look, it worked. It was fantastic. Somebody even said to me how fantastic it was. Well, that's great, except that, as you can already tell, we're not going the direction of that someday. And then, of course, the next week I do something else. And yes, interesting. People even go, wow, how do you come up with this stuff? But is it getting me where I want to go? Well, maybe in a roundabout way, perhaps it's heading that direction. And then, of course, in a month, I'm doing other things and going, hey, wait, there's a squirrel. And I'm heading someplace else. And of course, if I keep doing this even through time, at 6 months, am I on track? Not really. I'm off track. Look at all the wasted time. The easiest way is to go the straight line path between point A and point B. That's what gets me there the fastest, but I'm not doing that. But I'm not doing it consciously. I'm doing what seems like the right thing, and then the right thing, and then the right thing. But I'm not doing it through the filter of, is this taking me where I really want to go? And of course, finally, I end up in these places of, 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, and going, I'm exhausted. It didn't work out. I have to leave the industry. I'm disappointed. I've just never been great at this. I thought I was going to be, but it just never panned out. All of that story comes from this inaction in a straight line path towards the someday goal. So we're going to dig into that, because this is one of the biggest challenges that agents face. I want to make sure you don't face it. And if you have in the past, that you're able to move through that. So we're going to talk about goals and vision boards. And listen, we're not going to spend long on any of this, because this is not the purpose of the course. This is really about creating an undefeatable mindset and thinking big. So, but we have to do it through the filter of these things, right? So let me show you a diagram that changed my world and my thinking related to this idea of growth and bigness. So I used to say all the time, listen, hey, being rich and being poor takes the same 24 hours. Hey, doing great things and doing small things takes the same time. But I never had a real diagram for it. And one day I saw this one, and I liked it so much that I've been using it ever since. On the left-hand side, it says small thinking equals small results. Big thinking equals big results. And absolutely, that's the case. On the left-hand side of this XY axis, you see vision and thinking. So how big is your vision? How big is your thinking? On the bottom, you see time and energy. The work that you're putting in, the effort. You could put effort down there. The effort that you're putting in. Draw this out for yourself too, by the way. The effort you're putting in. And so then we go along and we go, I don't care if that time frame is a day, a week, a month, a year, or 10 years. It doesn't make any difference. It's this time, this running time. Now, here's where it gets exciting. We say, okay, so I'm going to do something. Here's my goal, and I want to achieve something. So we put a small goal on the horizon and go, let's go for it. And of course, if it's that small, does it motivate me? Does it drive me? Am I impressed with my own efforts? Am I really pouring myself into it? Am I studying and reading and really working at it? Am I taking classes to have that goal? Maybe, maybe not. If I'm wanting to involve somebody and I say, hey, I want to build a team around this. Hey, listen, guys, I'm building this small little enterprise here. I'm building this small little real estate, work, this practice. And literally, I'd love for you to join me. And they're like, well, it doesn't sound like much of anything. So we don't join you. We're not inspired. We don't get on board. Your clients aren't inspired. You're not inspiring. And of course, that's what happens when you set small goals. And of course, on the other hand, we then turn around and say, what about big goals, big, hairy, audacious goals, as they say in the leadership training? And when you start to set big, hairy, audacious goals, what starts to really happen is we start to see a bigger picture. But now what's really interesting is this. We have that big, hairy, audacious goal. And of course, it inspires me. I'm so excited. I can hardly wait. I get up early and I stay up late and I'm studying and I'm constantly working to get to that place. And of course, I'm talking constantly about with this idea in mind with people and going, come on, join me. This is going to be huge. Wait till you see what we're building. And we're constantly looking for the next team member, the next person, the next, admin, the next, part of our business. Well, listen, let's go back to the time frame, day, week, month, year, 10 years, doesn't matter. I want you to go out to the end of that arrow and I want you to draw a line, and the line is going to go straight up. It's going to intersect the path between where you are and the small goal and the path between where you are and the big goal. And what you're going to see is, just like I said, the fact is it takes the same amount of time. So why do some people get super successful and some people struggle all the time? And it's because we look at the left-hand side and we say, this is our vision or our thinking. And so I've drawn 2 dotted lines here, which will help connect the dots for you. And what that means is, if we're thinking small and aiming small, we're going to get small. It's going to take the same amount of time as if we think big and aim big and head for that big, hairy, audacious goal. It's the same exact amount of time. So what dictates it is not the time, not the effort, not the energy expended. It's not that. It's on that left side, which is about vision and thinking. How big do you think? How grand is your plan? How amazing are you inspired to see the bigger picture for what you're building?